The insult came sharp and public. "Move along, soldier. You're not even real military." The words cut through the September air like a blade, carrying just enough disdain to make the small line of civilians chuckle. The young airman at the base gate didn't flinch. She stood perfectly still in her uniform, her posture steady, her eyes scanning IDs with the precision she had been trained for. But inside, her chest tightened. The sting wasn't from the insult alone, it was from the silence that followed. Not a soul spoke up, not one person defended her. She was just a gate guard, they thought, just a woman in uniform who happened to be stationed where real soldiers passed through. Just someone in the way. But destiny had a way of turning just into everything. Her name was Senior Airman Claire Donovan. 24 years old, 5 feet, 7 inches tall. Brown hair pulled into a regulation bun. Her hands, steady and calm, bore the faint scars of shrapnel souvenirs from a convoy that had exploded on the outskirts of Kandahar 2 years earlier. She rarely spoke of it. Claire had learned long ago that silence could be armor. Silence let her hide the nightmares, the phantom pain that flared up in her leg on damp mornings, the loss of 2 friends whose names she still whispered in prayer before bed. Now she stood watch at the front gate of a sprawling naval installation, assigned here temporarily while recovering from knee surgery. It wasn't glamorous work. It wasn't combat. But she wore the same flag patch, carried the same oath, and bore the same sacrifices as any warrior on that base. Yet day after day, she absorbed the smirks, the casual dismissals, the unspoken belief that because she wasn't SEAL or Ranger, she wasn't worthy. 2 years before, Claire had been a convoy gunner in Afghanistan. She remembered the sunburnt sand, the grinding roar of armored vehicles, the metallic taste of fear just before an ambush. She remembered laughing with Corporal James Holt, who told her he wanted to open a diner when he got home, the kind where the coffee never runs out. He never made it home. Neither did Private Elena Morales, who had been sitting beside her when the roadside bomb tore through their Humvee. Claire woke up to fire, blood, and silence. Her friends gone, her body broken, her heart heavier than the armor on her chest. From that day forward, she carried 2 lives inside her, hers and the ones she lost. She didn't brag about her Bronze Star. She didn't remind people of the shrapnel that still lit up airport scanners. She didn't have to. She only had to stand, breathe, and keep watch. That was her oath. On this morning, the gate line was long. Families drove in to visit. Contractors flashed badges. Young sailors hurried through. Claire held each ID with the same care, scanning barcodes, checking names, offering a respectful nod. Then came the sneer from a civilian contractor, impatient and arrogant. His words were sharp enough to slice through the September calm. The civilians behind him smirked, shifting uneasily but doing nothing. Silence once again swallowed the moment. Claire's heart pounded. She could have corrected him. She could have listed the battles she survived, the funerals she attended, the nights she spent cleaning blood out of her uniform. But she did not. Instead, she simply returned his ID, met his eyes with quiet strength, and let silence do the speaking. The man wasn't finished. "Figures they put someone like you out here. Leave the real fighting to the men inside." A flush crept up her neck, but her hands remained steady. She waved the next car forward. The insult stung more deeply than the shrapnel ever had. Not because of what he said, but because every other person in that line chose to say nothing. It was the silence of bystanders that threatened to break her. But silence, she reminded herself, could also be her weapon. Down the line, a convoy of black SUVs approached, the kind used to transport high-ranking officers. The crowd shifted nervously, sensing someone important was arriving. Claire squared her shoulders, bracing herself for the salute she would soon have to render. But what she didn't yet know was that the moment would not belong to the arrogant man, or the silent crowd, or even to her. It would belong to the truth of who she was and who had noticed. The SUVs rolled to a halt. The door opened, and out stepped a Navy SEAL commander, his uniform immaculate, his presence commanding. His chest bore rows of ribbons. His face carried the weight of decades in combat zones. The kind of man people whispered about, the kind who carried myth as much as rank. He stepped forward, scanning the gate. Then his eyes landed on Claire. For a moment, time seemed to still. Without hesitation, without fanfare, he stopped in front of her, brought his hand sharply to his brow, and delivered a crisp, flawless salute. The gate fell silent. The civilians froze. The arrogant man's smirk dissolved into disbelief. Claire's breath caught. She returned the salute, her hand trembling, not from weakness, but from the flood of recognition washing over her. The commander held his salute a moment longer than protocol required, then lowered his hand and spoke words that would burn into the memory of everyone present. Some of the bravest warriors I've ever known were the ones nobody noticed. His voice was calm, but carried like a blade through glass. Respect is not earned by the patch on your sleeve, but by the scars you carry that no one sees. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, their silence now heavy with shame. Claire said nothing. She didn't need to. Her silence now roared louder than any defense she could have spoken. Because in that moment, honor itself had spoken for her. One by one, sailors in line straightened their posture. Then, almost imperceptibly, another officer nearby raised his hand in salute. Then another. Within moments, half the line, military and civilian alike, stood in solemn recognition, hats removed, hands raised. Claire's eyes burned, but she didn't blink. She stood tall, returning their respect with the same stillness she had carried all along. In silence, the gate transformed from a place of dismissal to a place of honor, and it all began with one salute. When the SUVs finally rolled through, the commander gave her a final nod, one that said everything words never could. I see you. I know you, and you are one of us. Claire remained at her post, the September wind brushing against her face, her heart heavy but proud. For the first time in a long while, she did not feel invisible. Her silence had been her shield, and now it was her victory. Respect, the commander had said, is not earned by the patch on your sleeve, but by the scars you carry that no one sees. And in that truth, every bystander at that gate walked away changed. Stories like Claire's remind us of a truth we often forget, that honor does not always shout. Sometimes it stands quietly at a gate, unseen, until one moment reveals it to the world. Wherever you're watching from, take a moment to reflect. Have you ever witnessed silent courage like this? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know where you're tuning in from. And if stories of silent strength and unseen battles matter to you, subscribe for more. Because some heroes do not need recognition, but they deserve it all the same.